seconds. Taking a few more seconds than I planned. And there we are. All right, we are live. Excellent. I can see us all there. We look great. Live on Zoom on YouTube. So, welcome. Douglas.
Yes. Hello, Kits, and welcome to Season 2 and episode number 30 of the Eager Beaver podcast, a podcast providing incisive commentary on Canadian politics and general culture. Today, recording day is Monday, July 11th, 2022, and it is yet another gorgeous day here at the Beaver Lodge, for which I am grateful because I spent a few hours with my beaver sweeties shoveling and carting gravel. Yes. I did that. I'm your host, the Eager Beaver, pronounced he, him, hey, Mr. Beaver A, and I'm extremely honored that you are joining Mr. Grizzly and me for this very special episode on the state of access to abortion in Canada. Of course, a big thank you goes to our podcast's founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com, who have been with us from the get-go, and we return the loyalty. Just prior to Mother's Day, the media outlet Politico published a leak of a draft of the Supreme Court of the United States, or SCOTUS's, decision to overturn Roe versus Wade. At that time, we brought together a panel of 5 thoroughly fascinating women, all of with whom we had a frank discussion about how it had hit them, and they offered us a nothing but substance show. So now that we find ourselves once again shocked, yet unsurprised, that the law actually was stricken down, well, most or all of them who were available to return further discussion and or who haven't been hobbled by Rogers. And we have some new people for you to meet. So Kits, please ensure that you have a refreshing beverage, perhaps a snack, and get ready for what I'm sure will be a fascinating and illuminating chat on access to abortion in Canada and the fallout from the US decision. So, without any further ado, here we go.
And welcome. How's everybody doing on this lovely Monday afternoon?
Fantastic.
So on our panel today is Mrs. Ashley Lindley, Karima Assad, and from Action Canada?
Yeah, it's Action Canada for Sexual Health and Rights.
Yes.
Thank you. And please, I'm going to screw up your name again. I know I asked you earlier, but I don't want to mess it up. So please.
Mankani.
Thank you.
That's exactly right.
I hate to screw up a person's name on a live show, let alone on a recorded show. So yes, I appreciate your patience with me. Thank you very much.
Now, Kits, we have Ms. Mankani, who happens to be the Public Affairs Officer for Actions Canada. Sexual. I had it. Now I lost it. Sexual Health and Rights. With us, and but we have her with us only for the first few minutes. So we're going to first direct questions to her, and then we'll involve everyone else afterwards. As Karima told us when we did our previous episode, there's different. The main difference in Canada is that there is no actual law on abortion in the books, and it's treated as a health procedure. And our Supreme Court obviously is different, and the way we pass laws is different. And therefore, the main issue here in Canada is more about access and how this decision might sway things with regard to access. And we were wondering if you could tell us today, what is the state of access to abortion in Canada? And what do you see as emerging issues, and what do you see as stresses potentially on the system from the US decision?
Yeah, so Karima's 100% right. We don't have a specific legislation on abortion, and that's actually a really good thing because abortion is protected under the Canada Health Act as a medical procedure because it's a basic human right and it's a medical procedure. And opening up the discussion for legislation would just create debate around an issue where there is no debate in Canada at the moment. And it would also open the door for that legislation to then be overruled like we've seen in the US. The issue certainly is with with access to abortion because the Canada Health Act isn't implemented the same way province to province. So in certain provinces, a lot of the abortion clinics are within urban centers, or all of the administrative fees aren't always covered. So a lot of people might have to pay out of pocket for administrative fees. There are certain ones that aren't federally funded, so it really does differ. Like sometimes the clinics can't do it. It only has to, the procedure only has to be done in hospitals. It really differs province to province, and access to abortion really shouldn't be based on where you live geographically. So we'd love to see more the federal government take responsibility for implementing the Canada Health Act more appropriately across the board, and really see all provinces have equitable access to abortion. Some of the issues that we've seen that already exist are that the people who will be disproportionately affected by the overturning of Roe v. Wade are the same people who are already disproportionately affected by having limited access to abortion within Canada. So people who live outside of urban centers, those who are less economically advantaged, those who are younger, LGBTQ folk, queer folk, poor people, immigrants, those are the ones who are disproportionately impacted by access to abortion in Canada. And they're also the ones who are going to be most impacted by the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And we've already seen that start to happen. So some of the issues that come up in Canada are whether you're able to pay the administrative fees, which in Ontario, where I'm based, can be up to $400. Whether you're able to take time off and travel to get this procedure, whether you have time to find childcare. So Action Canada really does work on the front lines to try and mitigate some of those gaps in access, but we can only go so far because we really rely on donations, and we have an emergency fund that helps people cover some of those costs, whether that's costs for travel, finding a hotel, childcare, or if it's just being able to pay for the cost itself. But it really is a stopgap measure in Canada, and that access really needs to be equitable.
This emergency fund you're talking about, that's if I'm judging by the website, that's the Norma Scarborough Emergency Fund?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. And should someone need that, how is that accessed?
So we have an access line, and the number of that is on our website, which is actioncanada.shr.org. And if you call the number, we can provide information on a variety of things, but also help you access abortion should you need it, should you make that decision for yourself.
Okay. And for those who might need that, the number is 1-888-642-2725. That's 1-888-642-2725. And Sia, if you are living in different provinces in Canada, where is it easier to access services if you need them? Where is it more difficult? And could you talk a little bit about the difficulties between urban and rural access?
So it's always easier if you're in an urban center, but the differences across provinces are so wide that they change so often that we're actually still in the process of creating a sort of access atlas, if you will, in partnership with a couple other organizations that'll help really define what services you can receive where. But one of the things that is really difficult to access in Canada is abortion in later gestational periods. So say after 12 weeks, and that's not always accurate. That also differs province to province, how late they'll offer an abortion. Some will be 12 weeks, some will be 16, some will be 20. But if you need an abortion past 20 weeks, that may be really difficult for you to access in Canada at all. And there are very few hospitals that will provide that service. One of the
I think
things
it's something like 16% of hospitals in Canada or 13% provide abortion service. That's it?
Yeah, it is a very low number. I don't know the number exactly, but it is a very low percentage. And what Action Canada used to do is take people across the border to Colorado to access that in the US. These hospitals now, or the clinics where we used to access those, or we would send Canadians to access later gestational abortion services, are now going to be overwhelmed by people who can't access them in other states as well. So it will impact who can receive it in Canada. And there are a lot of physicians who are capable of providing later gestational abortion, but the procedures to do so and the processes they need, like the tick boxes essentially, are really difficult to overcome in Canada to allow them to do so. So that's really a stress that we see coming up around the Roe v. Wade decision for Canadians even.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
It's access is a big issue, especially in Atlantic Canada, where I think what is one clinic in the entire province of New Brunswick,
and 3 in the whole region, I think.
Yeah, and there's almost 1 million people in New Brunswick now. The population is exploding there because people are immigrating to Canada or moving to New Brunswick, number one. And number two, you've got people that have lived in other parts of the country who can now work remotely, who are moving back to New Brunswick because they can actually afford to buy a home there. So as the population expands, you have services that are spread thinner and thinner to every person.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, and it like across Canada it is still something like, I think 1 in 6 hospitals that will offer an abortion service. So the issues with access are really, really high. And especially like, because I'm based in Ontario, for me, the idea of having to charge like $400 in administrative fees because the government refuses to cover it is just insane. Or
why is that though? Why do they refuse to cover it? It's a medical procedure.
Right. So the procedure itself is covered through OHIP, and a lot of the funding that goes towards those administrative fees are only accessible to clinics that were covered prior to a certain decision that got made. And let me try and recall that decision specifically, but essentially there was a ruling a while ago. There was a deal that got struck, and the clinics essentially that were covered under the deal prior to that were covered for all of their fees. Those that came up after were not. A lot of the clinics that were covered prior to the deal, and Karima, you might know more about the legislative decision here. I'm not sure if you do, but you might be able to speak more clearly to it. But essentially the clinics that were covered prior to the deal cover their administrative fees. The ones that don't, their costs are up to $400. For medical abortions, a lot of that is covered still because the administrative fees for those are lower. If you need a surgical abortion, those fees go higher. And that has been a way to restrict people receiving access. And we've seen that in a number of areas, including in New Brunswick. Not the fees, but we've seen the 8420 ruling, which means that only people, that abortions can only take place in hospital settings. So we've seen a number of those restrictions go through in different provinces that restrict access despite not restricting the service itself.
So something like an ectopic pregnancy would require those additional fees because that would be considered surgical, correct?
So an ectopic pregnancy might be covered under an emergency. So
Okay.
that might be covered by OHIP, but outside of that, those would likely incur fees. And especially if in cases, if you're younger and you don't want to use OHIP or if you don't want to use your parents' insurance, for example,
right,
that creates a problem in and of itself as well.
Understandable.
Oh, okay. With the wind that is blowing in the U.S., the famous expression, when the U.S. sneezes, we catch cold. What's the big fear? How is Action Canada organizing? Where do they see any bulwarks needing to be put up?
I think one of the big things that we've seen has been the rise of anti-choice not organizations, but sentiment more, and them growing bolder because, of course, if this has happened in the US, it's going to embolden anti-choice organizations and individuals around the globe, including in Canada at home. Mm-hmm. And the spread of disinformation is a huge barrier to access because there's so much stigma and disinformation around abortion that it dissuades people from even considering it as an option. So the government of Canada had promised a Health Canada portal that would that would address a lot of that disinformation, provide an unbiased view of abortion, and help dissuade some of that stigma. That hasn't come about yet, but we're hopeful that it is in the process and we'll see it soon. But I think that would go so far in quelling some of that disinformation. We certainly saw it work during COVID, and we're really hopeful that it can work with abortion as well. We've seen a lot of anti-choice organizations kind of frame themselves as crisis pregnancy centers and spread more disinformation. So it's really disheartening to see that, and it's become more and more emboldened in the wake of the Roe v. Wade decision and the leaked decision. So having the federal government really say, here's somewhere that you can go that is unbiased, that is providing scientific information, I think would go so far.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, Karima, before Insia has to go, if you had any questions for her that you would like to get some information on while you're here, please go ahead.
I feel like I got more answers than anything.
Oh, excellent. Oh, and may I make one comment? Karima, are you doing an homage to RBG, the notorious RBG with the...
Yeah.
That's right.
I've gotten that feedback on this shirt before. It is not intentional, but I suppose I will take it. It looks sort of like a judge's collar.
It's the perfect show for it today, right?
Just need the diva necklace. Before you go, is Action Canada, does it receive government funding?
We do receive some government funding, but we do rely heavily on donations as well. So we currently have a 2-year public health grant that helps bolster the Norma Scarborough Fund, but that's also due to run out in 2 years. So we're really hopeful that the federal government will extend it, but also that we'll have the means to pull from our general funding and cover that as well, because it is such a helpful fund and it does really help real people access abortion. So one of our real worries is that 2 years later, the funding won't be there. So we're kind of trying to ensure that that funding lasts beyond the 2 years that we've been promised.
Mm-hmm. So if there are any kids listening that would like to support the fund, how would they do that?
You can donate on our website at actioncanadashr.org.
Okay.
Right.
That's excellent. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. And especially since we reached out today, and I know that you're taking some of your personal time, so we are very, very, very grateful. And if ever there's you need a platform to reach out, we're definitely offering it to you. So please keep us in mind.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thank you.
Well, ladies, as you know, we were supposed to, we're still hoping that Holly and Sam might be able to join us a little bit later. Sam is trying to take care of some real estate business, so she's kind of tied up. And our friend Lisanne, who really wanted to join us today, is a subscriber to Rogers. So, yeah, in her neighborhood, she's like, I've got my phone, but I don't really want to do it on my phone. I'm like, I completely understand. I do, because, well, you don't want to burn through all your minutes, number one. And number two, it's not quite as good as a solid internet connection, which, as we know, lately is a little off. So, Ashley, you have some answers for us, because you work in healthcare.
I don't know if I have answers. I feel like I learned a lot.
Oh, okay, great, fantastic.
I work with seniors mostly, so this isn't something
It's not necessarily that alley, right?
Not so
Mabel,
much.
what have you been doing?
Right. But with that being said, I do think that in my line of work, we see things where people get to make decisions about their health, and we don't get to stand in the way of that.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen people say, like, I don't want to go to dialysis anymore. I'm done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So what are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
See somebody opt for medical assistance in death. Okay, that's your decision. I'm not here to fight you about that.
Yeah.
So
But
your choice. I'm down for that.
Yeah.
there are issues at both, right? At beginning of life and end of life that if they don't rhyme, they resonate. the same people that
absolutely.
are against access to abortion are probably against access to MAID.
Yeah,
Right?
I would
so-
imagine so.
Similar reasons and similar. So yeah,
they tend to want to be the ones who would absolutely cut any sort of funding that would support the single mother or support the person who is dying a terrible, terrible death. We can't spend money on that, but you insisted this person have this child, so you should be supporting them.
No kidding.
I read a great thing the other day that a friend of mine sent me, how they said, well, put the child up for adoption. Yeah, there's about 1 million kids, million plus in the system in the United States alone, waiting to be adopted, number one. Number two, how about we just force you to be a foster parent? Well, I don't want to do that. But you
Weird.
insist that that person has a child, but you refuse to be a foster parent. You don't want that foisted upon you. Your choice has been taken away because we're making you become a foster parent now. No, we can't have that. They fail to see the hypocrisy in their statement, though.
Yeah.
Well, and I feel like a lot of people believe that women almost shouldn't be able to enjoy sex without paying for it somehow. I don't know. It seems to be something that keeps popping up, and it's like, well, it's your fault. It's your fault. And
100% of pregnancies are caused by a penis, right?
and birth control doesn't always work. So I mean, there's people that do their damnedest to not have a kid, and still things slip by.
It happens. It's not infallible.
Mhm.
You can use a prophylactic, you can use an IUD and the pill, and guess what? Every now and then you slip one past the goalie because life finds a way, right?
I was just gonna say Jurassic Park, right? Like
Exactly.
yeah, life finds a way.
Well, I mean, I'd pull into my parking spot yesterday in my apartment building that was built in 1959. So it's all a lot of concrete and this and that. And I look, and in my parking spot, oh, look at that. There's a tree growing out of the asphalt. By the way, that's built over top of the parking garage. I have an outside parking spot. Underneath it is a parking garage. So it's not like it's reaching dirt somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
All that's down there is concrete. Again, Jurassic Park, right?
Yeah.
So you're gonna water it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Karima, when the decision became reality, like, I don't know how you put it, like, it's expected, but you wake up one day and it does happen. Now, of course, we're in Canada, of course, and it doesn't affect us as directly, but like, I know there's something like that. There's like 9 states right now where you can't get an abortion whatsoever. And then there's many others that had trigger laws. And I think about like 24 to 26 of them within a year or something like that will have severely restricted or outright banned abortion. Is there anything going on in the legal world where people are preparing here for what may be coming?
I mean, important, I guess, to reiterate that our system is quite different than the United States, and even culturally, while we may not be as distinct as we might like to think, it's still a different landscape. So I'm not aware of, this is a bit outside my regular wheelhouse, right? But as far as I understand it, the concerns here aren't that we're going to see a replication of what's in the States, but we may experience an influx of sort of medical tourism, if we call it that, although even there, that number will be limited by people based on their financial ability, right? And other options that are available to them, including in the States. I know that the CMPA, which is an organization that basically it deals with a lot of litigation against doctors. It's not an insurance provider per se, but they that's their function, that they deal with lawsuits. But they typically won't cover litigation that is out of country. And so one of the concerns is where legislation in the States has a proviso that anyone involved in this abortion is potentially liable. That opens up sort of a can of worms as far as willingness to perform the procedure on someone because of the sort of the risk, right, and the cost benefit. So like that, I just thinking about sort of what types of legal issues we might be facing here. But we also have our share of MPs. One of the candidates for the Conservative leadership race, Leslyn Lewis, is pretty clearly on the side of wanting to impose restrictions on abortion access. So we would be wrong to be complacent, but we do also have just a very different landscape.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you say that the landscape, you're right, it is very different, and our culture is different in a number of ways, right? Culturally, Canada likes to think of itself as not the United States. We have a lot more in common than we care to admit, but I think I would like to think the majority of Canadians would be moderate in this and think, you know what, taking a woman's right away, that leads down a very narrow, slippery slope towards Gilead, and none of us want to be there. At least, I would think most of us don't want to be there anyway. Maybe I shouldn't say none of us, because obviously there's a couple of MPs out of Alberta and a guy here in Ontario and a couple guys here in Ontario who definitely want to go down that slope. I'm not going to mention their names because I don't want to give them any press.
There does appear to be a market for it.
Well, it's disturbing that they think they have the rights to tell a woman what to do with her body. And that just...
But I think,
flabbergasting to me.
It's flabbergasting that people would think that, but then when you consider that they probably think they have the right to a whole lot more, that's just a little tiny sliver, I believe, of what they think they have a right to.
Yes.
It's, you got to take people from the place from which they're coming, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
it's troublesome.
Yeah. I was very uncomfortable from the moment I heard that RBG died. I mean, if you talk to my beaver sweetie, I was like just like storming around the house. I'm going like this, like we're in for X number of years of just So and we're seeing it so for Canada, my fear is what happens is that we keep on having a Conservative Party that has that veneer, or always has a leader that says, I'm pro-choice myself, but like my 97 friends behind me are not. And even though I'm pro-choice, I'm not going to actually stop them if they want, right? I mean, it's one of those situations I always describe is if I have a friend. If I have two friends and I'm talking to one and one comes in and starts insulting the other and I just let it happen and I don't say anything.
Yeah.
It's like, what kind of friend am I?
Not a good one.
So if you're sitting there and like I said, you're pro-choice, like this, yes, I'm absolutely, definitely pro-choice. I mean, he said it in that second debate, right? Pro-choice, right? How much do you want me to say it? But won't actually do anything to make sure that pro-choice doesn't disappear.
Where does he get this funding from?
Right, but yes, but not going into there. It's a back door, right? It's going to be the back door, how it's going to be done. No Conservative politician like this who pretends to be on the mainstream side of the Conservative spectrum is going to say, yes, we want to do this because they know it's losing here. Mm-hmm. So that's why they always do that dance. And that's why the Liberals keep on coming back every election, trying to corner them on abortion. And they keep on, oh my God, the Liberals are losing their mind because they're talking abortion again. That's why you keep on giving them reason to, because you won't give us a clear yes or no. Right? So should it happen that, I know we're discussing hypotheticals and we're in politics and in law, we don't like to discuss that, but should we get to the case where familiarity breeds contempt and the Liberals need to get spanked and they get thrown out of office, and we get the Conservatives by default. And they happen to have a majority, and they happen to have enough MPs in caucus that even with a leader that says they're pro-choice, it'll happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
What happens? Like, where do we go? Is there any move? Is there any defense? I mean, it'll go to court, it'll go to Supreme Court, hopefully with the justices that we have there, but I mean, if they decide to codify, I mean, we had this discussion yesterday when we had a tangent, on the episode with James, where we were talking about, you said that we need to codify this and we need to make a law. And I said, the same position that NCIA had, it's probably not a good idea to do that, because once you codify, you're already having a discussion on the debate on where the limits are. And then you create a baseline from which to cut. So
true.
My fear is that, okay, we're not going to restrict access because there's no law. We are going to codify it. We're going to try and codify it as limited as we can, and then, or as we can get away with, and then we're going to cut. The same way that, sex selective abortions, like this, we need, well, of course, if you ask anybody if sex selective abortions, I'm going to have a girl, like, yeah, let's make sure we don't have that because we want to have a boy. Nobody's going to say we're for that. But it's like, I doubt very much that anybody to Canada is going to see their doctor and going, hey, I found out I'm going to have a girl. I want an abortion.
How many doctors?
If it was a boy, I would have kept it. But so, I mean, how do you even enforce that? Right. Mm-hmm. It's like, I need an abortion, period. Why? Doesn't matter.
Yeah. That's
right. So you can enforce it and whatnot, but it's a thin edge of the wedge things. Okay, you've agreed now that we have this limit. What other limits? Right? That's what's going on. At least PR wise, that's what I see the strategy as being. And it might also be somewhat of a legal strategy, because, well, I made a little exception here. So what's one more exception? What's two more? What's four more?
Yeah, slippery.
That's my fear. So that's why I'm wondering, is there anybody preparing in case that should happen? Or are we just, because I was hearing a poll today saying that everybody's asking in the States, why did the Republicans codify it? Well, they were saying that it was Associated Press did some polling as the decision was coming down, and it was about halfway before the decision came down and halfway after. And in the sample group that they had halfway before, about 13% of them said that women's rights to abortion and reproductive health was a big priority for them. After the decision, that went up to 30%. But prior to the leak, in every other election, it had only been a 1 or 2%. It was never a legislative priority because they assumed it would never happen.
And I mean, that assumption was sort of just based on error, because states consistently have been trying to roll back rights, limit rights, be as stringent as possible. So the lack of political will or impetus, I mean, there's probably, I'm not an expert on sort of the Democrats versus the Republicans or the similarities between the two or the differences. But it just seems that wasn't on anyone's radar except for the people trying to put an end to it. And they've been working pretty consistently for decades. And there's a good degree of organization there. So that's what happened, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they've been basically working to overturn this since the decision was made in 1973.
Exactly.
And they've been spending tons of money on this for almost 50 years to try and overturn this. And what was it, Jane? Oh, my goodness. I see her face. I can't think of her surname right now. She does this talk about blue eyes.
Oh, yes.
Yes, she says it basically it's because the white man in power in the United States of America was afraid they would lose their power because there were not enough white babies being born, so that their role in society would be diminished. And she said point blank, it's racism, as simple as that. It's control over women's bodies and it's racism, and it's a combination of the two. And as George Carlin said, they hate women.
Jane Elliott.
Thank you, Jane Elliott. Brilliant woman.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So, yeah, because what was it? The last vote, I think, was it 82 members of the Conservative Party had voted, and there was maybe 110 of them at the time in the House.
Was it 110? I think it was 120, wasn't it? Closer to 120?
Yeah, maybe about 119. I mean, that's a pretty big proportion.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know that, there is that mobilization. I can't remember the name of the activist group that's there, but I mean, they definitely have a mission to go to nomination places and put, anti-choice candidates and get them, and then try to get the parties to put them in safe seats. And what I mean, they've got 82 of them so far, in a country where 60 something percent, 70 something percent, or at least, well, let's say about 2/3. I don't know the precise number, but that seems like a pretty big proportion of people. That seems a little, 82 out of 119 in a country where 63% of the people support some type of choice.
Well, it makes one wonder.
That seems like a lot of organization to me already.
Did they go digging to find these MPs because they're all part of that Campaign for Life coalition?
That's
they're either favored or unfavored, and they really do promote the heck out of the ones that they have on their positive list. And look, we're getting into some really icky territory here. We're going down to Klondike paper type territory with where they're digging up these members of parliament or candidates to run for the Criminal Party of Canada. I mean, Conservative Party of Canada or Crooked.
It was the Cutthroat Party of Canada.
Cutthroat Party of Canada.
These days.
Yeah. So yeah, they do have the favored individuals. It's a little disturbing because they're plucking these individuals out of society that I think they don't necessarily represent their constituents, but they're doing what the CLC wants them to do, along with the PBCC. And is it religious people pulling strings? Are we becoming a theocratic nation? Because that is the last thing I ever want to see in this country. And I mean, we already see it south of our border, what's happening there. Or was it in the state of Tennessee? They just changed the ruling where a publicly funded, I'll say like a summer camp, but it's not a summer camp. I can't remember exactly what it was. Publicly funded Christian building can refuse access to Jewish people. They literally just changed the rules on this, like in the last 2 days. I read that and I thought, this can't be right. And I've read multiple sources that corroborate that. Now, I can't see how that could stand up for one split second in court if the Supreme Court of the U.S. would go, hang on a second, you're not allowed to do that. But if they have enough people on there that can overturn Roe v. Wade, then there's already ruminations about limiting contraception to people. What's next?
Yeah.
They're going to turn over same-sex marriage next. That's the next one. And each woman who has an abortion in the United States of America, where it's a state where it's illegal, you are now a felon and you lose the right to vote. Mm-hmm. It's all about control. And it's a bunch of old white men who are doing it, and a couple of white women, which I do not understand. What are they thinking? They're voting against their own best interest. Although Amy Coney Barrett, I wonder if she's a bit of a Stepford wife, but that's an old pop culture reference that I don't know if everybody will get.
Ashley, is there, I don't know, what are your concerns? The decision came down. How did you experience it? Who were your first thoughts for?
I actually have a pretty big group of girlfriends that live down in the States. Mm-hmm. So right away it was like, oh my God, how are you guys doing? Is everybody okay? And I've got a couple of friends that live down in Texas, and like one of them is her kids are already grown, and it's not a concern to her, but like even she's just generally pissed for the state of things. So, I checked in with everybody that I knew that lived down there, and then I realized that things were going to creep this way, and no matter what, I'm sorry, but we're their goddamn hat. We're involved in this. We're always involved in this. So I figured out that, there's got to be a way to at least help people somehow if there's nothing else that we can do. So we're really kind of slowly working on a way to get ladies across the border, to get them the help they need and the funding they need for things. But I never thought I'd see something like this in my lifetime. It's just like, what year is this kind of thing? And then I think back to things that I've gone through personally, and it's true. There is some weird level of control when it comes to women's health, because nobody will tie my tubes. Nobody.
Yeah, this is Ontario. You're supposed to just say, I'd like this done, and they do it.
And I've been asking for a very long time, but because I don't have children of my own, they won't do it. But I don't want children of my own.
Right.
So help me help myself. No.
Wow.
We can't do that for you.
That's just, because I can walk into the clinic and say, I'd like a vasectomy. And there'd be no questions asked, instantly done.
Yeah, it'd be like Jiffy Lube. It'd be amazing. In and out. Yeah. Well,
Dean's talked about how quickly he's sitting there Sunday at the cottage with his buddy. Just come in to see me tomorrow. That was it. I'm like, what? And you've been trying for a long time to get this.
Yeah, over a decade at this point.
Good God.
Are you kidding me?
No.
That's unreal.
Yeah, I don't want children of my own. I'm positive. I'm absolutely positive. But everybody looks at you like you're absolutely crazy.
You know what you want, you know what you don't want. It's pretty simple, right?
Yeah. I also know what I can afford.
Yeah. You might change your mind. No, I'm pretty much, my mind's made up on this.
We're good. But I've had doctors tell me things like, well, what if you get a divorce and you meet somebody else and you want to have kids with them?
That's not how it works, dude.
I'm the one that doesn't want the children. Did you catch that?
Yeah.
It's kind of mind numbing to go over it and over it and over it with people, right? So yeah.
We seem to have lost Karima.
I don't know if we got disconnected or not.
I say she usually bounces back in pretty fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's frustrating, it's
It's just beyond ridiculous. Here, I've just found this thing that I was looking for. It's Chancery Court in Davidson County, Tennessee has ruled that taxpayer-funded establishments can place signs that say no Jews allowed as long as there are at least one establishment where services for Jews are provided. Yeah. This came out. This came out on my birthday. I'm like, what? Welcome to 1932.
Yeah.
That's how it began in Germany in 32.
Yeah. I know in the, with what people were talking about, when you were talking about coming from same sex and all that stuff, right? I think that was the part in the United States that really sent chills down people's spines when Justice Thomas said in his concurrence that, he thought that they should deal with Lawrence, Obergefell, and Griswold next, and Lawrence is same-sex sex.
Mm-hmm.
Right. We're not even going for marriage yet. Obergefell is same-sex marriage, and Griswold is contraception. Curiously, he did not mention loving.
Well, that's because that's some mixed race marriage.
Yes.
Loving versus the state of Virginia.
Yes.
And his wife is white.
Yes.
Loving weird how that works.
Loving was passed in 1967 and Roe was passed in 1973. So, not that far apart.
So yeah, how far back do we go?
Yeah. Now, the other conservative justices on the court say they're not coming for those. They say that abortion's different because it involves a life. But yeah, I'll believe it when it lasts. I don't trust any of them further than I can throw them, and I can't pick half of them up. It's just like, did you say that, Ashley, that you were working with some friends to maybe try and set something up to help?
Yeah, we're looking to do something.
Okay. Do you have
Absolutely.
some sort of broad general idea of what areas you're looking at without having like to scoop yourself or something?
Not just yet. It's new, but it's gonna pick up steam pretty quickly, I think.
Mm.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's
Well,
cool.
I was really hoping we could get Holly in today, but lives and schedules and such. Her sister lives in New York City, and when the ruling was overturned, she flipped out. Like, she flipped out. Now, in New York State, they've codified it and said, no, we're not striking down anything here. Don't worry, everything will remain status quo. But it's quite limited in New York State as well. So they've kind of got like an Atlantic Canada sort of vibe going on, in the sense that, sure, you can get it if you can find a place. Good luck. But yeah, her sister like absolutely flipped. She's like, they're coming for us.
Mm-hmm.
They're coming for us. You know,
That's how it feels, I would imagine.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Especially down there, right? Like if I'm feeling it here, I can't imagine how anybody with a uterus that lives in the States is feeling.
Terrified. Like terrified.
Yeah.
And understandably so.
I mean,
because, you know, the next thing is same-sex marriage. And like I said, they'll end contraception. And then you have a theocratic nation, and they're slipping towards that. And here you have a devout Catholic president who 100% supports a woman's right to make that choice.
Yeah.
And he wrote an executive order just the other day to have emergency contraceptive available to anybody who wants it. Right? Plan B. And again, a devout Catholic president, only the second one in history. JFK was the first. Well, I don't know how devout JFK was, but he was Catholic. But Biden goes to church every Sunday, and he believes the woman has the right to make that choice because he's a modern thinking individual. Now, he didn't always think that way. He was at one point in time, he was against same-sex marriage, but he grew, unlike a lot of other people.
Absolutely.
He learned, he listened, he opened up his mind, and he said, oh, hey, you know, I don't have the right to tell that person what to do.
Yeah.
Rocket surgery, right?
It's funny how we mature and we grow and we learn things, right?
One would hope, you know.
Well, yeah, it doesn't happen for everybody, as we've seen through this, but yeah, it's nice to see people come around.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Really
it is.
Things in the States, at least, and I'm sure if anything legal happens in Canada, there would probably be similar avenues here, are about to get a little messy on the front. Oh, great. We have a Karima arriving back just in time, actually.
Sorry, my computer gave way.
Hello. Welcome back. You arrived just in time. Because I was talking about how the situation in the States might be getting a little messy on the legal front, because there's a rabbi who has a progressive synagogue and he sued the state of Florida over a bill that would ban abortions after 15 weeks there, arguing that it infringes on religious liberty.
Absolutely.
Because the Jewish faith is different than a Judeo-Christian faith, right? It's not Roman, Lutheran, that they have different tenets, different beliefs about the soul, about everything, about when life starts.
Life begins at first breath.
Yep.
Like this, or if you're looking at the Bible, you know, the breath of life in Genesis, you know.
Yeah, it's possible that sort of equality arguments will be made, ironically, not just on the basis of sex or gender, but, you know, through other sort of channels like religious freedom. One, not exactly similar, but a story that I read about, a woman in Texas was stopped on the highway and she was in the high occupancy vehicle lane. And, you know, she said, well, I'm pregnant. And the sheriff says, no, has to be, you know, two persons in the car, like out of your body kind of person. She's like, well, where does it say that in the legislation? Or I guess the statute, I don't know what they, but like the rules for the HOV lane. So, you know, different ways that the legal system can sort of be used to undermine this ruling. But though, like any kind of legal challenge takes time. So that is the major downside. And this issue has become part of a culture war. Culture war was built around it, and that pendulum seems to have just swung. So that's sort of the aftermath that we're going to be dealing with now.
It's, you say that, and I find it's an angle that didn't occur to me because, well, I'm not a lawyer and I'm not really that smart, but it didn't occur to me that you could play the religious card against them at their own game, because under Judaism, it's fully accepted. Under Islam, it's fully accepted. There are no sort of, again, the same thing. It's like life begins at first breath. And in Islam, and I believe the same thing in Judaism, I have studied them both, but it's been a very long time, so please forgive me. I'm just a dumb old white guy. But in Islam, the mother's life is placed higher. Like under the tenets, according to the Quran, the mother's life is more important than the unborn child at all times. At all times, period. And I have a copy of the Quran. I've read it years ago. It's an English translation, and I think a lot's been left out, to be honest, and I didn't fully understand all of it. Again, I'm just a dumb old white guy, but there were some things I was able to pick up on in there. And I've talked to friends and colleagues who are very much in the pro-choice milieu group lane, if you will, and these are religious people. They go to the mosque, they go to the temple, they go to the synagogue, but they're still like, no. The government should not be restricting your right to make a decision, a medical decision. And that's interesting that they can play that card. So that rabbi, that's a smart fella, but I've never met a dumb rabbi, to be honest. They're very learned men. Knowledge and learning is very, very high up within that calling. It's not profession. Would you call it profession? I don't. It's like I don't call a priest. That's not a profession. It's a calling, right? A minister. It's a calling. It's not like a.
It's not just a job.
Yeah, it's not a career choice. Like I'm gonna make a lot of money doing this. No. Actually. Now that I think about it, there's some guys that go into it for that purpose. Kenneth Copeland's of the world. Anyway, Joel Osteen's of the world. But that's a different story altogether.
Yeah. Oh, well, this might be a good place to end it then, I believe, since I don't think we're going to have our other guests.
Unfortunately.
Yes.
Life gets in the way sometimes, right? I mean, we all have responsibilities and scheduling.
Karima,
unless you don't want a life to get in the way, in which case you should have the choice.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Exactly.
Do you have some final thoughts that you would like to leave people who might be panicking with?
I mean, the best remedy for any sort of panic or anxiety is to learn stuff. So that would be my recommendation, right? Start on a local level. What is the situation where I am at? And then kind of branch out from there. And if you're looking to be proactive in some way, then I would suggest looking into organizations. The more grassroots, the better, because that's just how things seem to work better. And certainly in the States, some of these larger organizations, they are compromised, for lack of a better term. So look into who is already doing work in this area. And if I have the capacity to help, in what ways can I be useful? So now is not the time to panic and, start a new organization because we've just learned about this issue. It's to research, educate yourself, and figure out who's already doing the work and how can you best connect with them.
That makes perfect sense.
Absolutely. Ashley?
the lawyer gives the best advice. I can't argue with it.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts?
Just that, again, it's frustrating to be a woman most days, even on a good day. So if we could just stop playing games and trying to turn back the clock on everything, that would be fantastic. Because like I said, I never thought I would see anything like this in my lifetime, and it's incredibly disappointing. So let's find a way to fix this shit.
Yeah, I completely agree. It's just, you made me think of a story. I don't know if I've ever told this story on this show or not, so I'll give you the abridged version. Back when I was quite young, 2021, a friend of mine, a woman that I worked with, was a couple years older, and she's like, "You're getting too big for your britches, young man. Friday night, you're coming out with me." I'm like, "Okay, where are we going?" "We're going to this place in the market. Never heard of it before." Walk in. Wow, this is a great disco. Look at this light show and it's bumping music and great house music, and this is a gay bar, isn't it? She goes, "Yes, it is." I'm like, "Why did you bring me to a gay bar?" She goes, "Because you're going to get hit on all night long. And I want you to understand what 5 minutes of a woman's life is like." And I went, "Huh?" By the end of the night, she said, "So how was that?" And I go, It was not comfortable, because it's like, "No, I'm not interested. No, thank you. I'm not interested. Hey, can I buy you a drink?" "Yeah, you can buy me a drink." "Hey, how about we?" "No, I'm not interested. Thanks for the drink. Get lost." And I was 2021, so I was young. I was naive. And it was a clarion moment. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it was a big light bulb moment for me, where I recognized that level of uncomfort that I felt by unwanted advances by strange men, which is what it was all night long. Women go through that every day of their lives, and multiple times a day. It's like, oh my God, men aren't built to handle that, right? So women, you're built differently to begin with. And now you have this one more thing. It's like, so you got to put up with all this crap from greasy men. "Hey, smile. You'd be much prettier if you smiled. Hey, if you lifted your skin," right? Ashley, you want to bark when you hear that. And here's the thing. Women hear it all the time. The tide's changing because young guys think they can get away with it, and the woman will turn around and no. So, it's not the tides that we have out in Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, where you walk on the ocean floor. We're talking like the changing of a river from morning to night, which is a couple of inches, which doesn't have a tide, but you know how the wind blows it around. What I'm trying to say is that we're making incremental changes, but not nearly enough. And the fact that women still like us as human beings is astonishing to me, because I see the terrible things that men say and do to women all the time. And I'm like, wow. Mm-hmm. And now we're just going to take some rights away from you. And we're going to tell you in particular, no, you can't get your tubes tied. You might want a baby someday. No, I don't. I know I don't. But what if you do someday? But I'm telling you, I don't.
Well, and it's amazing, because then they put you on birth control, and then that causes side effects and medical issues and problems for all kinds of people. And then I called them recently about an issue I was dealing with because of my birth control, and now I'm on more medication because of my birth control to fix the problem that my birth control is causing. And I'm just tired. It's like, could we just take it? And apparently asking for a hysterectomy at 32 is it's dramatic, I was told. So I gotta keep all of this.
But I don't want it, right?
No. And to what you were saying about unwanted advances and understanding how it feels, I think that's how I know that who you love isn't a choice, because I like men, and that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Right. It's like, because we're pretty horrible, right?
I was just gonna say, I picked this. You think so?
Yeah.
No.
No.
Love is love. Okay, deal with it.
Yeah. Who would pick that, right? I mean, come on, right?
You know how long we have to look for a good one? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Oh, sister, I'm right with you.
You guys are all lucky. You're all partnered up. Well, honestly, I'm dating somebody right now, but I am dating somebody right now. But it's new, and baby steps take our time.
I hope it goes well.
Well, we're the same age, so I think it should. One of the great things about being the same age is that there's absolutely no games whatsoever, right? We just cut right through the crap and say
as it should be.
Yeah, well, we're both 54, so it's kind of like, no, I don't have. Neither of us have time for the crap.
Mm-hmm.
I like this. Do you like this? Yes. I don't want to do that. Okay, no problem. Like nobody's.
Do you like this? No.
Yeah. Nobody's feelings are hurt. It's real easy when it comes to that, and I try to be as amiable and agreeable as possible because I figure life is short, and when you get to be in your mid-50s like me, you want to enjoy what time you have left. You don't want to spend it fighting with people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I concur.
I didn't mean to make that about me. Sorry.
Oh, I hope my parents see this and think about it.
Oh, there's a story there.
Everybody should be happy. Think about your lives.
Yeah, it's short, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Short. Well, I'll give you an example. Last Wednesday, a guy I grew up with died. He had a wife and 2 kids, and just like that, I don't even know what happened. I just got the news from a friend of mine. He's a couple years younger than me. Thank you. We played hockey together. I knew his older brother. He and I were close, and last time I saw him was about 4 or 5 years ago. So I have seen him in the last little while. And, we're all in touch on social media, but he was 52 years old. Gone.
Yeah.
Life is so fragile and so short. So, why are we making rules about women's bodies when, God damn it, just let them live. Just let women live and make their own decisions.
And that's it. As human beings, we should all have bigger things to worry about than what individuals are doing with themselves. And if we really want to complain, then let's talk about all of the weird elective surgeries that people get.
Yeah, and there's no issues with those ones, right?
No, you can make yourself a full-on Barbie doll and nobody will complain. Just saying, that's your right, apparently.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's talks, right? Money.
Wow.
Yeah, it makes you wonder.
It does.
Yeah.
Well, all right. Ashley and Karima, thank you so very much for having joined us for this episode. We really appreciate your time, and we really appreciate your contributions and insights.
Yes, we do. Thanks for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Lovely to be here.
All right.
We'll talk to you
again soon. I promise.
Please.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, that's some heavy stuff. That's a heavy afternoon. And we've talked about this topic before, and somebody said, "Why are you so passionate about it, Paul?" I'm like, because I don't think a man should be telling a woman what she can do with her body. It's that simple. And the funny thing is, they say as soon as you say you're pro-choice, like, "Oh, you're for abortion." At what point did I say that? I never said that. I am for a woman's right to make the choice on a medical decision, because that's what it is. Right? You want to get breast and augmentation? No problem. Nobody questions that. Right. Go to town. Right?
Right.
You want to you want to change your lips, your cheek, your hair, your teeth. No problem. I want to get my tubes tied. Oh, no, we can't let you do that. You might want to have a baby. I have made a sound decision. I don't want to do this. A guy can get a vasectomy damn near at the Jiffy Lube, right?
Right.
But a woman can't get her tubes tied. And in the United States of America, in many places, she can't get an abortion if she wants one, or needs one for that matter. Because in some states, even if you have an ectopic pregnancy, they will not allow a medical abortion. I'm like, sir, she's going to die. You're going to kill this woman because of your warped mentality.
Yeah. I always have this expression that I say that, when it comes to a lot of things where you shouldn't be minding your own business, people keep on going, "Oh, I don't want to pry." Like when you're living in an apartment building and you hear somebody getting the crap beaten out of them in the apartment next door, like this, and you don't call. this. And then it's sort of like, you know what? I got pregnant. I don't want to have the baby. And they're all up in your grill about something. I don't want to say that doesn't matter for the person who's making the decision and the people who love them. It matters.
Of course,
for anybody who's not involved, anybody who would not be paying to raise that baby or making any decisions has no right to a freaking opinion.
Right. No, you're absolutely right.
Why are you even making this? I often ask myself on things, I mean, now this is different because I'm doing a podcast, so obviously I'm having opinions, but for my life, right? Before I have an opinion on something, I ask myself, do I need to have an opinion on this? Because anything, like there are things in life there are things in life I don't need to try to know that I will not like. There are certain things I just do not need to have an opinion. Because a woman's decision to have an abortion is one of them.
Yeah, no, exactly.
Because your decision to get heterosexually married is not one of them.
Yeah, that's right.
If you decide to get married one day, I'm not going to be running up to church going, I object, straight people should not be allowed to get married. Think about the children. I just...
think about the children.
It's just I stole that a little bit from a comedian called Susan Westenhofer. I saw her back in the 90s or something like that, and she had this joke says, or was it something like this? I don't mind heterosexuals. I just don't want them teaching our children.
Flip it around, right?
So hard.
Flip it around.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
So, but yeah, it is too bad that we couldn't get everybody else as well.
We'll have another panel show in the future where we'll have the same brilliant group of women on again, which I'd really like to do. Again, it's difficult. Summertime, July is tough, right?
Yeah.
Holly has a couple of children. She has 2 young daughters, so she's pretty busy with them, and she runs her own business. And Sam is trying to take care of some real estate stuff right now, and Lisanne's still without internet because of So it's just time of the year. These things happen. I understand.
Yeah.
And we just wish the best for everybody anyway. So it's like, hey, next time we'll do it again. Don't worry. I'm not going anywhere. I have a lot to say, and I'm still trying to get the narration thing going, right? So I can, earn a living.
Yes. Before we go, we do have some news about the podcast. Turns out that some of our latest episodes have done very, very well on the charts. According to Apple Podcasts, the episode that we put out on July 5th, which I believe is our interview with Connie, the episode about Rosie, the Rosie Project. Okay. On the day after, in Canada, was the number 33rd ranked political podcast.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah, the nation. The next day 44th, next day 67th, next day 74th, next day 81st, and it's still on the charts at 94th.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So that's for political podcasts specifically. And then for news podcasts, so because we're listed under both, I believe this is only our second or third episode to have made it on the news podcast, the larger one.
Oh,
so
cool.
We hit 106 on the 5th. So we normally don't rank there at all. Then 163rd the next day, and then 225th on the 7th. And then we fell off the charts.
We want to thank the listeners and now the viewers, because we are live on YouTube. And we're going to do this a little bit more frequently because we have multiple formats on our show. There's the bites, the nibble, and the interviews. Those we can do. We can stream those on YouTube. But when it comes to the flagship show, there's a lot of script work in there because we're reading a lot of facts and figures and trying to deliver it to you. So I don't know. We're not professional broadcasters, so it's not like a live news station. So maybe we'll do one of those at some point in the future, but we're working out the kinks in the whole live streaming thing right now. So
yeah, we're kind of new here still. We don't know all the possibilities and how to get things done. But yeah, hopefully eventually we might have a slightly glossier look to stuff. But
yeah, over time. Look, we're not polished, and I don't know. Well, maybe I look a little polished. Unintentionally polished. I'll have to powder my head. Oh my goodness gracious.
Just to continue, there's more news, however. We have finally charted in a whole other country.
Oh, really?
Yes. And I will give you 3 guesses. You will never guess.
The UK?
No. Smaller.
Smaller. Ireland.
Smaller.
Latvia?
Panama.
Panama.
Panama. Yes. Apparently we have some listeners in Panama.
Panama. I don't know anybody in Panama. Do you know somebody in Panama?
Maybe it's Connie knows people in Panama.
Oh, that's right. Yes.
But yeah, on the news podcasts in Panama, we were number 67th.
Huh. Cool.
Then 105th, then 147th, and then 187. And on the political ones, we were number 19th. We hit number 19 on the Panama podcast, political
Top
podcast.
20. Top 20 in Panama.
Woo-hoo.
It's like, hey, but we're big in Japan.
And I mean, there must be more than one person listening because, I mean, 4 days later, we're still on the charts. We're still ranked 42nd. So people must be listening. Wow. Yeah. Cool. So, yeah, I'm going to be chatting with Constance tomorrow and hopefully get an update on whether or not there's been more donations. But it seems to be going well. So, and I've asked her to see if she can keep track a little bit of what's come in as a result of the show to see if how much we've been able to help, because over time I'd like to anything that we do charity wise keep a running total and see how much we've helped over the years. And, if we're still doing this 15-20 years from now, maybe we'll be able to say something like we've raised $1 million for or we've helped, and that would be cool. A nice thing to do, right? Yeah.
Very cool.
All right, kids. Well, that is the end of this episode of our show of the Eager Beaver podcast. We hope you love listening to us because we love making this for you. And because democracy is something you do, if you can, please donate to your local food bank. Or if you wish to join me in supporting the Rosie Project with a monthly contribution, I'm doing the requested $25, but I'm sure whatever you can afford would be put to good use. Then you can write to us at our new email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com, and we'll hook you up with Constance and make sure that you either get to her directly, or if you give a donation through us, that it gets to her that way. And as we mentioned before on the show, if you would like to donate to the Norma Scarborough Fund that helps people who need it pay for the travel, medication, or related expenses that would normally come out of their pocket when they need to access an abortion, then you can do that at actioncanadashr.org, which is their website. And if you happen to need their services, their telephone number, once again, is 1-888-642-2725. That's 1-888-642-2725. If you really like this podcast, you can find us on Google, Spotify, Apple, and Stitcher, Deezer, everywhere where you get your friendly neighborhood political podcasts hosted by a beaver and a grizzly. And if you like us, tell your friends, right? Because, word of mouth is invaluable. Of course, retweets, shares, gentle corrections, constructive criticisms, compliments, requests, bribes to be on the show. We haven't mentioned that recently, but yes, bribes, we love them. Nobody's offered us any yet like this, but we are completely open to them. So.
Pint of Guinness is a good enough bribe for me.
I'm always partial to Farm Boy gluten-free ice cream chocolate chip cookies. Just saying.
That's a real thing?
it is an actual real thing, except they're sporadically there. It's like sometimes I go and I pop in the fridge and they're there and I grab a box, and sometimes I go and I specifically want them, they're not there. And it's like my little heart gets disappointed for a bit.
This sounds like too much ordering at Starbucks. Yes, I'll have a double decaffeinated half calf with a lemon twist, please.
They're just ice cream
latte with a,
they're just chocolate chip cookie ice cream sandwiches.
I'll just have a coffee.
But they will not kill me.
I would like my coffee in a mug, black, please and thank you. Like my heart.
I'm not being picky. I just like to breathe.
I'll do it.
So yes, if you want to help us get some of our hands on some of those, or a pause on some of those, please help us out with the donation at our coffee website. That's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. That's ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. If you have criticisms and compliments, you can send them to us on our Facebook blog page, at our Twitter feed at True Eager, and at our email address, truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com. If you love us so much and don't want to miss an episode, hey, we're in it for the long haul, baby. We'll make a commitment if you do too. Subscribe via our new Podpage site, podpage.com/the True North Eager Beaver, with a hyphen between all those little words. And finally, as we mentioned, if you really, really love us so much that you can't stand it, our tip jar is at our coffee page, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver. $3 is our requested donation, but you are free to donate whatever it is that you like. And Mr. Grizzly, there is a kit, I believe, I want to pronounce the name right, so I just want to make sure. Kit Aina, I believe, or Aina, that gave us a lovely donation as a result of hearing our recent work. And she told us, I assume it's she. I may be wrong.
We're guessing.
I may be wrong. This is a total guess. If I'm wrong, please send us a gentle correction, but with a message saying, thank you, love your work. So thank you. We really, really, really appreciate the generosity and the support.
We are looking at producing some merch at some point in time, a couple of coffee mugs and maybe some T-shirts or scarves or something with the logo. And I think we'll just do it with the rainbow instead of without.
Oh, you want to do it with the rainbow?
Well, everybody loves rainbows. Come on, man.
Okay.
Why not?
Okay. Why not? We could put it out there. Maybe we'll be able to give choice. I don't know how we're printing on a mug, because we haven't shown them all yet. But Pete has made us some seasonal ones for Halloween and for Christmas, and has one with a little bit of green on it. Should we do something environmental? So he's given us some options.
Okay,
so he's got some things to play with.
We'll leave it up to him then. We'll leave it up.
Yes, we hopefully will have some merch soon. And we asked Kit Linda M, our favorite Kit, because she's been such a good supporter, what it is that she would suggest as our first merch. Would it be a baseball cap, a T-shirt, or a coffee mug? And she suggested coffee mug. And Kit Linda, your wish is our command. So coffee mug it will be.
We'll make
it. From the Beaver Lodge, this is your Eager Beaver and Mr. Grizzly saying, until next time, dear kids, it could be a tough world out there. So please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, some words of wisdom before we go.
Yes, we need to smash the patriarchy.
Yes,
I mean that because it, as Dean often says, I want to give my privilege away so that I can help somebody who doesn't have it. I sincerely mean that. I want to be able to make this an equitable world, so that you have the same opportunities without the restrictions that I don't have. I start the 50-meter race at the 75-meter mark. I'm still going to lose because I'm old and slow, but there's no obstacles in my pathway, and I want to make this world a better place, and giving that privilege away by helping somebody when and wherever I can, and listening. Listening is so very important. When somebody tells you that something is wrong, listen to what they're saying. Somebody who comes from a walk of life that doesn't look like this is not a 6-foot cishet white male. If they tell you they're going through some troubles because of whatever that obstacle may be, listen to them. Don't tell them what to do. Listen and then ask, how may I help? That's my words of wisdom for the day.
I like it.
That's a high five. A high five.
It's a combination of high five and testify. Yeah, seriously. The things that you think will protect you. I'm paraphrasing a brilliant lady named Brittany Packnett Cunningham on this one. The things that you think will make the patriarchy love you will not protect you from what it is they have in store for you. Do not make the mistake. Whatever you think that is, whether you think it's you voting conservative, whether you think it's your whiteness, whether you think it's the fact that you have been a stalwart community member and visible and clearly on their side and, shouting from that you are on their side, it only means they'll save you for last. It only means they will save you for last. None of it will protect you from what the patriarchy has in store for you.
Very true.
Eyes wide open.
And remember what our good friend Holly says. Get out there and fuck shit up. That's it for us for today.
The True North Eager Beaver podcast is an Eager Beaver Mr. Grizzly collaboration. Research, story, and guest curation and copywritten by, in this case, both the Eager Beaver and Mr. Grizzly. Recording, production, editing, and additional research by Mr. Grizzly. Music courtesy of Ben Sound Royalty Free Music. Once again, thank you to our founding sponsors, the Pepper Master, the Miss V Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. Thank you to Pete Jarvis for our kick-ass artwork. We absolutely love it. And thank you to our guests, Ashley Lindley, Karima Saad, and I
knew. See?
Darn, I was doing so well.
My fault.
Let me.
It's my fault because I asked her name earlier how to pronounce it because I screwed it up, and then that was it.
Insia Mankani. I'd remembered the Insia. I had forgotten Mankani. I am so sorry. But thank you to Insia Mankani from Action Canada, Sexual Health and Rights, who at pretty much a moment's notice, we wrote to this morning, I think at 9 something in the morning, and asked if there would be somebody from the organization available, and they made something. And thank you to Celia Zhang, who's the media person there, who made it possible as well. That's our episode.